What inspires me the most about this work is learning about the history of the object as I'm working on it. These things have incredible provenance, who owned them, how they survived the vicissitudes of time, and then they end up in our hands to be preserved. It's always a discovery working in this field.
When visitors come to the diplomatic reception rooms, what they see is a world-class collection of early American craftsmanship. When the rooms close for their annual restoration period, craftsmen from all over the nation carefully clean, preserve, mend, repair items just in time for the rooms to open up in September.
I'd like to think that we're carrying on traditions that started by our forefathers. What happens with custom window treatments is you always start out with design. So forget these fabulous fabrics for a moment. If you don't have a perfect design sketched out, you're going nowhere. We set a standard, like to call it the American standard in this sense, that was taken from generations of still hand sewing portions of our drapery that almost no other business does. Even though these are new, these could have easily been made at the time of George Washington.
Not just me, but I think even people that work with me and I work for, they know there's pride being taken. You know, it's not just a job. Whatever we put in here not just has to look good, but also has to function in a better way than it did before.
With American furniture, everything is very well restrained. I like the balance and the feel of it, and I fell in love with it. I saw conservation as sort of my selfish way of continuing to work with this furniture because I wasn't sure that I'd be able to make a living just doing reproductions of it. In conservation, we are trying to stabilize and protect a piece of furniture. For me, I find it's a balancing act between the needs of the object and the needs of the owner. It's trying to preserve the history of a piece. So you're not trying to take away anything that you think is important, understanding how that piece was made or how that piece was used, any part of that piece's history. It's patience. Each material has different limits, and that's what you kind of learn as a craftsman. You start to begin to really understand how far you can push something and when you need to say stop. But just cleaning the edges of this with the swabs to get the glue off. It's important for these objects to be preserved for future generations because it gives us the chance to study them, to understand what the technology at play was at the time that these were built, to understand what their aesthetics were, what they found beautiful. That's, I think, a big part of it.
I was really drawn to photographing things from museums because I love art. It just gives you a perspective on life when you look back and see things from the past. We tend to think of things like art as these permanent objects that are in museums and they'll always be here and we'll always have them, but things sometimes change. There are fires, there are sales of things, objects travel to other places and don't come back. So when you photograph things and you publish them, it's a way to preserve. One of the amazing things about photographing at the diplomatic reception rooms is that they have such a range of material, furniture, documents, paintings, china, silver, but these images are all being used by educators all over the world through the web. Access to the images is a wonderful thing for the collection to get out into the world.
Each of these objects tells a story, and they're done in an atmosphere which is extraordinarily convivial, and things are displayed just absolutely beautifully here, and we have to keep it that way.
This is what we're here for, is to make these beautiful museum spaces that are here not for a year, but for 40, 50, 100. That's one of the main reasons I enjoy and got into this. I am a faux finisher. We can virtually turn any surface into something that it is not. We can take a piece of wood and make it look like granite, quartz, marble, and it's all through paint. This piece, if you would have seen it before, you know, how we glazed the shell and actually showed all this detail. Prior to this, you didn't really see all that. Now, when you turn the lights on, this is a jewel box now. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful thing. And again, in the future, I can say, wow, that's going to be around for a long time.
Without the craftsmen maintaining these objects, restoring, preserving these objects, we would not have the rooms as we have them today.
In these rooms, treaties are signed, perhaps wars are ended, perhaps peace can be achieved somewhere. These rooms celebrate the workmanship of early Americans. I think that they show the best of America.
The story is the founding of America, our development as a nation, where we were, how we got to where we are, where we plan to go even. It's about America's place in the world.
All civilization is judged by the art that's left behind. These are the touchstones of our civilization. So art is the glue. The great political power of art is the glue that holds nations together.
We tend to think of things like art as these permanent objects that are in museums and they'll always be here and we'll always have them, but they're very easily gone. So much French silver is gone because during the French Revolution it was melted down and used as currency. So when you photograph things, it's a way to preserve. So silver is incredibly reflective. It's one of the most difficult things to photograph, but when you get it right and you get the metal sparkling in a certain way, it's fantastic. What I'm doing here is I'm setting up a big baffle on the top. The light is going to reflect into the silver and capture the engraving on the front of the coffee pot. As the photographer, you have the opportunity to reveal something about an object that wasn't known before. For example, we were photographing a piece of china, and through very careful lighting of the object, I realized that there was a gilded coat of arms that was painted over, and so when you lit it a certain way, you could reveal this underpainting. These are documentary record photographs that I'm taking, so I really try to get the photograph right in the camera. If you start cleaning up the surface of the object in Photoshop, the integrity of the image is lost. These are concerns that museum collections have that most users of images don't think about. So that's one aspect of museum photography that's important.
These draperies, that magnificent chest, this sofa, everything about our history is crucial, good and bad, to use as education for our young and for our posterity's sake. When I do any window treatment, how can I accentuate the height on a window? That's usually what surprises people, because a lot of times when they think that they don't want to cover their window, I'm not going to cover their window. I'm simply going to elongate their window and have this gorgeous flanking around them. What happens with these treatments is you always start out with design. Forget these fabulous fabrics for a moment. If you don't have a perfect design contemplated, you're going nowhere. Very interesting in the drapery is they have these beautiful thick folds. And if you feel them, you'd feel like you're touching this magnificent blanket. Well, you really kind of are. Inside of these draperies are two linings. It's actually called bump. In today's world, we use it because it makes draperies look luxurious and fabulous. And historically, because windows were so drafty, that draperies were made with very thick linings, so that when you close the draperies, you could ward off cold, wind chill and such. These are rooms of the people. These are an expression of everything American.
Gold leaf is 1 micron thick, and the artist Charles Prendergast referred to it as a half-solidified piece of sunlight. We we were asked to replicate the seal of the State Department. We pour plaster of Paris into the mold, and we mix that clay with gelatin. It's all an animal product that has a high collagen content. We then polish the surface. At this point, the gold leaf is very difficult to handle, and it's blown out into the cushion like this, and flattened with your breath. And then it's picked up with a gilder's tip. And you rub the tip on your skin to pick up a slight amount of oil. And this allows the leaf to attach itself to the gilder's tip. I'm going to wet the surface with alcohol and water. This is called gilder's liquor. And this reactivates the animal glue, and it literally jumps from your gilder's tip like that. It's then polished with a stone, which is used to polish the leaf, and that's how you get the high degree of brilliance. We have miles of things to gild today. And so what we've done is taken a glove and glued hematite to it and saved hundreds of hours.